Let me tell you the story of a boy named Henry. Henry was a 15-year-old that I knew when I served in youth ministry in California. And Henry loved to run. He was a nationally ranked runner. He loved it. He said he felt so alive, so free when he ran. I don't feel that way when I run, okay? But Henry did. He loved it so much until one day he was out running a race and he felt a sharp pain in his right leg. Turns out the leg was broken. Tibia was broken. And so he had to enter rehab, healed up, came back. Very next race, left tibia, the other leg, broke. Turns out that Henry was diagnosed with an illness called osteogenesis imperfecta, or brittle bone disease. And the doctors told him that he would never run again. And that was absolutely devastating for Henry because his whole self-image, his identity, his sense of his future was wrapped up in this idea of being a runner. And now he couldn't do it anymore. Well, time passed, lots of prayer, lots of patience, lots of hard work. And Henry realized something. He said he realized that if he could help other people feel the joy and the freedom that he knew as a runner, that might feel meaningful and purposeful. And so he committed himself to that and to becoming a coach and a running instructor. It was about a year later, he came to me and he said, "Justin, one of my students just won his first race." And he said, "I got to tell you, when I saw the joy on his face, I felt even more alive and even more free than I had felt when I was at my peak as a runner." Friends, my name is Justin. I'm one of the pastors at First Christian Church of Granbury, and I want to thank you for the chance to be part of this with you this year, this strange experience. We are living in a crazy, strange world right now. I know this is not what you wanted from church camp this summer. I'm so sorry that you're not getting that experience of being out there in that beautiful place with people you love. I can't even imagine what that feels like, but I also know that we are children of a God who is at work even now, a God who works in the midst of brokenness and pain and frustration to bring about new life and new hope. And so I trust that God is at work through this experience. And my prayer for you is that even though it's not the experience that you were hoping for, that it will be meaningful for you. And I hope that it will be. Okay, let's talk about purpose. The theme that I was given this year by the RYMC is this question of what is my puzzle piece? And I love that topic. I think it's so cool because of a couple things. First of all, it acknowledges that there is something unique and special about you, that you have this unique shape, that God crafted you in a unique and special way, but also that there's a puzzle, right? It's not just about us. It's not just about this piece and the shape that God gave us. It's about the fact that God has a dream for God's world, that God is shaping this beautiful thing that is so much bigger than us on our own, and that we have the chance to be a part of that. So I think it's an awesome theme. The plan for the rest of this week is to do, after this session, 4 more sessions, and we'll dive into these questions of how we can live with purpose, how we can find our unique puzzle piece and play it, right? And we'll do that through 4 sessions, probably just 10 minutes or less. I have to confess to you, I am not a videographer. I'm not a motion graphics guy. I'm not an animator. So it is probably going to be the case that this video will not be as interesting or as dynamic as some videos that you might see on YouTube. But again, I appreciate you bearing with me. The good news, these keynotes probably would have been 30 minutes or more at camp. I'm going to try my best to keep them to 10 minutes or less. This first one might be just a little bit longer as we kind of set up some of these themes and kick off today. Okay, first, let's talk about what purpose isn't. All right, I want to clear up a few misconceptions about purpose. 3 major things here. First of all, purpose is not a future thing. Knowing your puzzle piece is not for adults exclusively, okay? Keep in mind, Some of the disciples of Jesus Christ probably were as young as 14, 15, 16 years old. And I think we have this idea that purpose is something that we're supposed to figure out later. And it's just not true. Second, purpose is not about that one thing I'm supposed to do with my life, right? We have this idea that there's this one task, this one job we're supposed to have, or this one thing that we're supposed to accomplish. And that's really not what purpose is about. It's not about what you do so much as how you do it, right? Purpose is about a way of living in relationship with God, in service of others. And the cool thing about that is that you might have 5 or 6 different jobs or careers in your life, and you can live purposefully in all of them, and you can live purposefully in your volunteer work, in your family life, in your church work, right? So purpose is not just about that one thing I'm supposed to do. Third, it's not about you. It's not about me. If we want to discover our purpose so that we can figure out how to build ourselves up as much as possible, win the affection of the world, gain power or fame or people's respect, if those are the things that we want, that's just not purpose. That's not what purpose is all about. Okay, so if those things are the case, if that's not what purpose is, what is purpose? Well, there has been a growing consensus in the purpose world over about the past 10 years that really, most fundamentally, what purpose is this, that anytime you use what's best about you, the gifts that you have, the strengths that you have, the resources that you draw upon to address needs or problems or challenges in the world, to address the needs of others. Anytime you put those two things together, you are living with purpose. That is purpose. And I think that's true. But I would add a couple things to that. I think for that relationship to be manifesting as fully as it possibly can, 2 other things have to be true. First, it has to be rooted. That relationship has to be rooted. And the word that I like to use here is kingdom-centered. See, kingdom, the idea of kingdom is that God has a dream, that God is building through time with lots of patience the world that God imagines. God is painting this big, beautiful picture using us to get to that point. Some people prefer the word kingdom. Kingdom is kind of a feudal, F-E-U-D-A-L, male-centered word. So some people would prefer to use the word kingdom. But whether you use kingdom or kingdom, the point is the same, that God has a dream. And in order for us to live as purposefully as we can, we need to root ourselves in that dream. Second, that relationship between gifts awareness and other centeredness has to be stretched. This has been the biggest awakening of the purpose movement over the past couple of years, is that a lot of times people have been kind of doing this discernment, figuring out what their gifts are, what needs they want to address, and coming up with a purpose statement, and then not doing anything with it, right? So in order for purpose to really manifest, it has to be stretched, and we have to be action-oriented. We have to go out and do our purpose. Okay, we will talk about those 4 things over the next 4 days. And to come back to the question of puzzle pieces, I think you'll see how this applies here, right? So the puzzle piece itself, your puzzle piece has a unique shape. That's the gifts awareness piece. You have to be aware of your own gifts, what you bring to bear, your own unique shape, right? Then we have to be ready to connect our puzzle piece with the puzzle pieces of others. We have to recognize what their needs and what their shape are, okay? Third, there is a puzzle. There is a big picture, right? The first thing that we do when we get a puzzle, look at that picture on the box and it gives us a sense of how to play each piece, right? And that is that kingdom or kingdom centeredness, right? That sense of the big picture of God's dream in this world. And then fourth, you got to play your piece. If you see the picture over there and the other pieces are out here, but you're just going to keep that piece of yours and leave it there on the table, you're not going to get anywhere. And that's that action orientation piece. All right, the scripture passage that the RYMC chose for our time this week came from Paul's letter to the Ephesians, chapter 4, verses 14 through 16. And let's read that together. We must no longer be children, tossed to and fro and blown about by every wind of doctrine, by people's trickery, by their craftiness in deceitful scheming. But, and here's verse 15, speaking the truth in love, we must grow up in every way into him who is the head, into Christ, from whom the whole body, joined and knit together by every ligament with which it is equipped, as each part is working properly, promotes the body's growth in building itself up in love. That's the perfect passage for what we're talking about, right? This idea that each piece matters, that you matter, but that you matter most fully when your piece is bound together with all the other pieces of the puzzle, and the picture, the image of God's dream becomes real in the world. All right. Again, my goal, we're going to talk the next 4 sessions about the 4 practices of purpose. And my goal is that you would come out of this process with both your own unique personal purpose statement and a purpose plan for how you can go out and live that. If you'd like some questions to think about either on your own or in group discussion following this session, here are a few questions for you. First, where have you been off purpose in your life? What do you need to give up in order to be more on purpose? And let me close this session with a quick story for you. Around that time that I was working with Henry in California, I had started a business. And the long story short here, the business failed for all intents and purposes. I was kind of, we were making it, but the business didn't really take off the way we hoped. For all intents and purposes, the business failed. And that was so hard for me because, like Henry with his running, I had imagined that I was going to be that guy, right, who built the big successful business, and probably the guy who got all the accolades that came with that. And so here I am, and I was on an airplane. I was flying from DFW back to LAX after seeing my folks. And I'm sitting there on the plane. We're coming into the LA base, and I'm looking out the window at the San Gabriel Mountains. And I came as close as I ever have in my life to hearing what I believe was the voice of God. And I can't say that I heard it audibly in my ears, right? But I might as well have, because it echoed through every fiber of my being. And the words that I heard were, "Come home and follow me. Come home and follow me." And I was terrified, but I also felt at the same time a real sense of peace, and a sense that it didn't matter whether my business had failed or taken off, because I wasn't defined by that. I was defined by my relationship with the God who shaped me, the God who calls me, the God who carries and supports and empowers me through this life. And friends, that is my hope and my prayer for you as well this week, is that this would be an experience that invites you to come home and to follow Jesus Christ. Would you pray with me? Gracious God, you know the hurts and the pains of our hearts. You know that the life that we're experiencing this summer is maybe not the life that we hoped for. But we also know that you love us. And we know that you're here. And that you're working through us. That you're working around us to build a better world. And it's our prayer that you would use us to that end, that you would fill us with a sense of hope, that you would make us more aware of our gifts, that you would make us more aware of the needs of others, the big picture of your dream for the world, that you would call us into purpose, active purpose in this world, that we might be your partners, that we might co-labor with you in building that better world. Thank you for never giving up on us. We confess that we fail again and again and again, and we fall short again and again and again. But we know that you are a God who journeys with your people through the wilderness, and that you're carrying us even now. And we thank you and we love you in the precious name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. God bless you, friends, and see you again soon.